don't want to be afraid, hard not to hesitate, but we can't wait to be the change. It's not too late, free from hate.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight on a very cold evening, especially this year because it's the very first year of this Courage to Create competition. It's the first time that Western has partnered with Kalamazoo Public Schools to formally integrate a literacy and creative writing component as part of the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. So just some quick logistics before I turn it over to our program chair, Tony. Just a couple of things. We will be recording the ceremony this evening, and most of you have filled out forms authorizing, explaining what we'll be doing here this evening. So please, though, know that a lot of this programming will be edited, and each of you will receive a copy. The purpose is basically to share all of the wonderful poetry that the students have developed, with others to kind of introduce them to creative writing, because all of you are going to have a wonderful time this evening. Logistically, what we will do throughout the agenda, you have the printed agendas in front of you. We have invited 10 semifinalists to read this evening. And they're grouped into three different categories: emerging voices, grades 9 through 10, and grades 11 through 12. What we will do is we will call up if any of you, how many of you are here, like students that are going to read tonight or are part of the competition? Okay, wonderful, excellent. So what we will do is we will call you up in groups. Each of you will be accompanied by two wonderful community-based judges that have volunteered to judge in this competition. They're all distinguished poets in our community. So what they will be doing is basically do a group read with you. And so we'll call you all up together as a group in emerging voices, grades 9 through 10, and grades 11 through 12. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our program chair, Tony.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. Welcome. It is indeed an honor and pleasure to have everyone here tonight on behalf of Western Michigan University, President Dunn, Provost Green, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Martha Warfield, who is the brainchild of a lot of the things that we've been doing with the school district. She could not be here because she had a board meeting today, but she would want you to know how proud she is of the relationship that Western Michigan University, the community, and Kalamazoo Public Schools are working together as we help our students. We have an exciting evening. I'm so excited. This is the first year that we've had a program like this, and I would be remiss if I didn't give Dr. Kathy Purnell a rousing vote of thanks for all the work that she's done to put this together. She has worked extremely hard. We've had many activities and many people pitching in, but she took it and she ran with it, and thank you so much for organizing this. The Martin Luther King Celebration Committee has been together for probably close to 20 years. But about 7 years ago, we decided that we wanted to focus more on working with our students in education in our district. We know we had a lot of students here that are very talented students, and we wanted to work with them and bridge that gap, as King would want us to promote education. Education is the new currency. It is. Despite of whatever you hear, you have to have it. And so we've been doing that and working with our district. Our Martin Luther King Celebration Book Bowl was extremely successful. We had probably 275 students that competed in the Book Bowl. We had a tremendous competition. We had workshops and panel discussions and all kinds of programs for the students. We've had lectures on our campus talking about justice and injustice, social justice. And believe it or not, our young people are very concerned about what's going on, not only in our community, in our state, in our country, in our world. And it's reflected in their writing, their conversations. We had a poster presentation, and students are talking about these things and putting those tough issues out there. And sometimes we as adults don't even talk about them, but they know what's going on. And this event highlights an opportunity for them to express themselves and reach beyond what they think they're capable of doing, number one. But number two, talk about things that's important to them. And having an opportunity like this, and then the support that you have from people in the community that's helping to nurture that. Because we believe that your success is built in. It's already there. All we do as educators is we just help nurture that and bring it along. But it's already inside. And I'm so excited because it's going to pour out tonight. And with that, we're going to ask, Buddy Hannah. I could talk about Buddy for hours. Buddy is a pillar in our community. He is one that you can always count on, you can call on. Anytime there's an issue, you know, he made himself available. He is a poet. You know, he's going to be reading for us Why Courage and Creativity Matter by Buddy Hannah. Poet, author, radio commentator, talk it up. He's just a good person. And when you meet Buddy, you always feel good when you talk to him. He's very positive and high-spirited, but he really believes in helping people. He's concerned about people, young people, and we're just excited to have him. And he is retired, so he came out of retirement tonight to be with us. And without further ado, Mr. Buddy Hannah.
An introduction like that costs you $25.50. I have the 50 cents. I will get you the $25 later. Thank you for, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Purnell, Tony, and all involved for asking me to be here and to speak briefly to you and maybe share a poem. I got email from a good friend of mine, Elizabeth Kurlikowski, and she said, well, could you come and do such and such? And I said, well, yeah, I can, you know. And I thought I was just going to come read a poem and, you know, sit back and listen to you all. And then I got an email from Dr. Purnell saying, well, you know, how do you want to list you on the program? And you're going to speak about why courage and creativity matter. And I'm going like, well, wait a minute. I didn't know all of this. But since I always try to have more answers than they got questions, I'm prepared. So anyway, I'm just going to talk briefly with you because tonight it's all about the students and what you're doing and what you came here to do. And we want to hear you all do your thing. But I do want to speak just briefly about creativity, why courage and creativity matters. And I'm only going to take a few minutes of time, so listen closely because I will be talking fast. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to read a poem, and then I'm done, okay? So listen to it closely because if you miss something, then you just missed something. First of all, when we talk about creativity, and we use the word, we break it down, and we look at the word create. Create means to bring something into existence. And that's what you do as a poet, as a writer, as a playwright, or what have you. When you pick up that pen and you begin to write, you bring something into existence. That's what you're doing. And that's the first important part because now you're getting ready to bring us something that perhaps we've never heard before, unless you copy one of Denise Miller's poems, you know, which I kind of have. But you don't, it's not about someone else, it's what you're doing. Because that's the create part of it. Now, when you talk about creativity, you begin to talk about what is creativity. Now, we went around the room and we have a lot of educators in this room and a lot of deep thinkers, you know, so we ain't gonna ask them what it means because we'll be here all night. They'll be trying to break it down. Well, you see, now the hypothesis of this is, no, we ain't gonna even get that far. But I'm going to give you some simple overviews of what I believe creativity is. okay? First one I would just leave is that creativity is the use of the imagination or original ideas into production of artistic work. So you're using your, and the key word here is original. That's what creativity is, original. Because when you sit down and you just take something that somebody else did, you're not being creative. You're just taking what they had, but original, and you're using your imagination. The second part of that is the ability to make new things or think new thoughts and new ideas. Creativity is bringing something new before you. Because if you're doing what I did or someone else did, you're not really creating anything. It already exists. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with it because a lot of good work exists, but it exists because somebody created it. And that's what you as young poets, young writers, or what have you, are supposed to do. Create something of your own. The other part of that is turning new and imaginative ideas and thoughts into reality. You take those ideas, you take those thoughts, and you make them a reality. And it's not a reality until you actually share it with somebody. I once had a friend, and she showed me some poems and everything, and she said, well, I want to be a poet. I said, okay, you want to be a poet? Cool. She said, yeah. She said, I am a poet. I said, oh, you are? I said, well, who have you shared your work with? She said, well, nobody. I've just been writing these. You the first one that I've let see this. I said, well, here's the deal, and this is the way I look at it. You become a poet when you begin to share your work and other people experience your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas. That's when you become a poet. Other than that, everybody can write something and put it in a box and just have it sitting there. So as long as you have it sitting somewhere, you're just writing. But once you begin to share it like some of you are tonight and what you're going to do tonight, then you begin to become a poet. So those are the things involving creativity: the use of the imagination or original ideas in the production of artistic work, the ability to make new things or think new thoughts or ideas, and the turning of new and imaginative ideas and thoughts into reality. That's creativity. That's creativity, plain and simple. Now, the courage part is that. So let's talk about courage. What is courage? Courage is basically when you break it down, and we're not going to ask these doctors and PhDs and everything, because you know they got their, it's a whole new thing, you know. We're going to break it down simple. Courage is to do something even though you may have a fear of doing it. Plain and simple. To do something that you may have a fear. A lot of you, that's part of being a poet too, to get up in front of people and read. You have to have, you may be scared, but you want to do that. You know, my first time on stage as an actor, I was scared, you know, because I had never done it before. And I was scared, but I overcame my fear, and I guess I had the courage to do it because I wanted to do it. And as a writer and a poet or what have you, you want to do that. So that's the first part of it, is to do something even though you may have a fear of doing it. The other part of courage is, as it relates to writing, is to write without fear of what others might say or think. That's the first thing. Because if you sit down and you sit there thinking about, well, what people gonna think of, you will never create anything. Because I'm gonna tell you now, everybody ain't gonna like your poetry. So don't even worry about it. In fact, some people you may go somewhere and nobody like your poetry. Just try to get out there as fast as you can, you know. So but you don't want to sit down and think about that. Okay? Don't let that be a fear. You do what you do because you want to do it, and you're not concerned about what people are going to think about it or what they're going to say about it. You just put it out there, because that's why we write, so that people can comment on it, okay? And everybody's going to have a different take. You can read a poem in this room, and I will tell you, everybody you have, half of this people would get something in one way and somebody something the other way. Well, no, that ain't what he was talking about. No. So that's the whole key of being creative and writing something. The other thing about courage is to write without fear of to share your thoughts and feelings with others without hesitation. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and feelings. That's what it all comes down to. Anytime you create something and you write something in terms of a poem, a play, a story, you sharing your thoughts and your feelings. Now, it may not be everything about you, because I've written some poems and people go, oh, wow, did you do that? No, I didn't do that. But I knew people that did do that. So I didn't hesitate to share their thoughts and feelings. I mean, But you can't hesitate to do this. You have to be said, hey, I'm going to write this and I'm going to share it with people, period. Plain and simple. That's when you become a poet, a writer, a playwright. The other part of that is to say what needs to be said when no one else will say it. That's your responsibility as a writer, as a poet, as a playwright, or what have you, to say what needs to be said when no one else will say it. Because that's what it's all about. A lot of people can write, but they can't say what needs to be said. You, as young poets, young writers, what have you, you have a gift that you've been given, and you need to say what needs to be said with that pen. The last part of that is to not be afraid to use your imaginations. Use your imagination. You could come up with so many things. That's one of the gifts that we have is our imagination. Now, a lot of people can imagine some stuff, and some of it is pretty weird because I read a lot of Stephen King, and boy, he can come up with some crazy stuff, He mess you up. But it's his imagination that's working, and that's what it's all about. Use your imagination. As a writer, as a poet, playwright, what have you, that's part of what you do. You use your imagination to bring these things alive for people. The good thing about writing and all of this courage to be creative is that when you put it on paper, it lasts forever. When you put it out there, it's there forever. There are poems that was written hundreds and thousands of years ago, and they last forever. People still read Socrates and Pluto and Shakespeare and all of that stuff. They last forever. That's the good part of what you do as a poet and a writer. So that's what you need to do. So that's why you should have the courage to be creative. Plain and simple. Those things right there. Say what needs to be said when others won't say it. Use your imagination, Let your thoughts and your feelings come out without hesitation. Don't be afraid. Because if you want to be a poet, you can't be afraid. You can't be scared. I don't know no scared poets. Now, well, I'll take that back. Because some people, they're not scared to write. They may be scared to perform. That's another thing. That's a whole different thing. Because some people don't like to get up and perform, But don't be afraid to write. Don't be afraid to put down on paper that what needs to be put down on paper. So that's my little spiel on the courage and creativity. Now, some of y'all gonna remember that. Some of y'all poets, y'all gonna remember. Some of y'all ain't gonna remember. And some of y'all just ain't gonna care. But that's cool. Those of you who remember that, you're gonna go far with your writing when you can do those things. Those of you who want to be a poet. See, some of you right now, you just like writing poetry, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to be a poet, you have to be able to do these things and not let it be a part of your fear, okay? And do these. So that's that part. The last part is I want to leave you with a poem, okay? Because I'm a poet by heart. I've done so many other things that people forget that I really love reading poetry. And anytime I get a chance to do it, I'm going to do it. Without hesitation, without fear. I have the courage. So I'll leave you with this poem that it may be suitable for it. Back when I was growing up, we had what we call the Black Power movement. If you real young, and most of you are, you need to read up on the Black Power movement and what it was about and how it came about and everything. So, but I want to leave you this, and it's called The Death of the Black Power Movement. I'm not sure when it happened because there was no official announcement. No one held a news conference. There was no headlines in the newspaper. There was not even a death notice. No one wrote an obituary. No one even sent flowers. But the Black Power movement died and no one said a word. When did the Black Power movement die? Did it die when so many of our black leaders were sent to prison or killed? Did it die when black power was replaced with green power and money, not freedom, became the object of our desire? I'm not sure when it happened, Because you see, there was no emergency broadcast signals heard on local TV. No programs was interrupted to bring us an important message about the death of the Black Power movement. There was no announcement at work or at school, but the Black Power movement died and no one said a word. When did the Black Power movement die? Did it die when the last afro was cut off and replaced by the Jerry curl? Or did it die when both was replaced by the haircut of corporate America? Did it die when the last bottle of Afro Sheen was sold? Or the last Afro pick was thrown away? Or when the dashiki was replaced by a three-piece button-down suit? Maybe it died when the last clenched fist was raised in the final Black Power salute. I'm not sure when it died, you see, because no one held a wake, no one said a prayer, no one ran crying in the streets. Just like the revolution, it was not televised. When did the Black Power movement die? Did it die when white America finally opened the doors and unwillingly let us in? Did it die when we accepted what we thought was a gesture of kindness and abandoned our own communities and many of our people? Or did it die when being black no longer had the meaning that it once had? Maybe it died when black people began to move to the suburbs so they could become suburbanites and upward mobile people. So they could say that they had somehow made it in America and had reached the promised land and beyond. Maybe it died when we no longer felt the pride that we once felt. I'm not sure when it happened because, you see, there was no funeral. There was not even a cremation. No one gave an eulogy. No one said a prayer. No one said a word. But the Black Power movement did die, and it was buried and forgotten, and no one seemed to remember when the Black Power movement died. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, our first category for this evening. It's a wonderful segue. We have our Emerging Voices category. This category included is very interesting, actually. Originally, this category was grades 6, 7, and 8. 7 and 8. But sixth graders found their way into the competition, which we were thrilled about. So we decided to add them to this category. In addition, we also had a couple of out-district, outside of KPS submissions, which we did not want to turn away, so we permitted them to compete. So it was a combined category called Emerging Voices. What I'd like to do now is to invite the semifinalists in this category. If you're here, please come forward. DeLauren Bradshaw. Is DeLauren here? No? Desra Holbrook. Is Desra Holbrook here from Hillside? Yeah, thank you. Come on up. And Emma Winchell. Is Emma Winchell here? Thank you. Okay. And the judges that will accompany both of you for the group read, yeah, come this way, yeah, in the center, are Elizabeth Kurlikowski from the Friends of Poetry and Michael Evans from the Kalamazoo Literacy Council. Okay, thank you. Yeah, please join me.
We're all going to get into place here. Here's what we think is happening. I'm going to do a little poem. Michael is going to make some remarks, and then we're going to stand here to be moral support while you two read your poems, okay? All right. So I am Elizabeth Kurlikowski. I was a teacher for many, many years, and every semester I made sure I read this poem by Langston Hughes in one of my classes because it reminded me of what I needed to be and to do to call myself a teacher, and this poem taught me. This is called Theme for English B. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I'm 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. I'm the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down into Harlem, through a park, then I cross St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, and I come to the Y, the Harlem Branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down, and write this page. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age. But I guess I'm what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you. Hear you, hear me, we two, you, me talk on this page. I hear New York too. Me who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like who are other races. So will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white, but it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me is I'm a part of you. Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you, but we are, that's true. As I learn from you, I guess you learn from me, although you're older and white and somewhat more free. This is my page for English B. Langston Hughes.
So wonderful it is to have young voices emerging. My job is to help you, hopefully be able to introduce you, but then to step out of the way. I can tell you one thing, though. We're all excited to hear your voices, so mine will be very, very small, and hopefully yours can be very, very large. So we want you to speak with confidence as you go forth. We know that there's people who can't read and write as well as you do. They might be able to say only the words, but they can't do what you do, write them down and have them last forever. They can't make a poem that defines them, that introduces them, and that shows them their spirit. You can do that, and we're hoping that you can. So when you get up here and you take this place, forget all of this. Focus on what you placed in those pages, those words. I read them carefully, so well crafted, thought out. But the only way that we can really hear it is if you bring it forth. Okay? Yes. This is your literacy, the ability to read and write and understand. This is your creativity, your ability to be able to express yourselves in all these dynamic ways, and the courage to stand up here and face down whatever's out there. That's for you to display. Now, I'll leave you just with one thing, and one thing only. It's a poem that introduces someone who's before me, and then I'll introduce the both of you. I am Michael, the grandson of Lee, part of a long line of men who have carried the name Evans. Like the stones of the mountains, my shoulders carry life's burdens with a quiet strength and a commanding presence. I am a thinking man whose plans for the future roll forth like a clear stream rolling down the hillside. As I walk through this earth, I seek to help others find their successes, and through their success, I find my own. While I live, I will succeed with honor, I will serve worthy causes, and I will carry out the great works of this life without complaint. And when I die, I will leave a legacy that serves as well as my grandfather's serves him and me. And I'm interested in hearing your legacy. So which of you will go first? You are the closest. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. My poem is What Black History Month Means to Me. Martin Luther King gave his life for our freedom. Rosa Parks didn't give up her bus seat just for us. Harriet Tubman saved the slaves just for us, just for our freedom. What Black History Month means to me is very important, and it means very much to my heart. Also, Black History Month is me. Black History Month is my family. When I think of Black History Month, I think of my family and how they had to go through so much, just much in their life. Also, I think of what all the Black people had to go through in life and how badly they were treated just for their freedom. By Desire Latrice Holbrook, Hillside Middle School After School Program. Thank you.
Hello. My poem is Another Sandwich. I always had a sandwich for lunch at school. It was normal. I wasn't. I don't know how to explain it, but I always knew. So did they. Someone might say, why did you believe them? How could I not? How do you not believe these things when it's all you hear? When every mirror and every failure attacks you with shards of unmet dreams and broken glass? Each word is a tiny crack that slowly lets love and joy and faith and courage slip away. It makes you want to only wrap yourself in thick hopelessness, to turn away and rip yourself apart, so that hope and pain is gone and all you feel is nothing. But I couldn't do it. And as I am beaten with broken trust and lost hate, the sky warps and burns in a way they cannot see. Tears crash against the ground, playing twisted songs with voices that no one hears. I beg for a reason. Why? The people meant to protect me spoke indifferently, and I had no one who could save me, no one who could do more than slow my loss for a moment. I stood exhausted and broken on the highest winds that I could reach, as the wind and grace and soul inside called me over the edge. Faded but not gone. I began fighting back with barbed wire, the chains they wrapped around this dying soul of me. I wish that I could change this world, that I could shatter these aching scars, that I could bring mercy to all those whose wounds bleed blue sky to black, that I could speak in thunder and cry out, enough! But I can't. All I have are awkward words and shaking knees, armed only with a cracked will, perhaps hoping that by bleeding ink and weeping colors, everything will someday be all right. With this impossibility of hope, I stagger on. For what can I do but try to reach one more day, so that all the makeshift bandages of friendship and all those who fell and cried and bled were not in vain. All this I cannot forget, as tomorrow I make myself a sandwich.
Oh, hold on, Emma and Desra, don't go away just yet. Thank you, Desira. Desira and Emma. I just wanted to also share with everyone that another sandwich had tied for first place overall, all categories. So, congratulations. And also, Desira was quite distinguished as well, scored the highest in the 6th and 7th grade categories. Okay, thank you. Okay. Our next category with semifinalists is the grades 9 through 12 in Kalamazoo Public Schools. The judges that will coordinate this section are Jennifer Clark from Kalamazoo Communities and Schools, and William Kraft, a poet, and in the Western's Office of Diversity and Inclusion. The semifinalists for this category, Tasha Beischel. Is Tasha here? Yes? Okay, please come up. Jonah Eisner. Thank you, please come up. And Ashvian Gibbs. Oh, Ashavian, thank you. Gibbs, please come up. Okay, thank
you. Yeah, I guess I'm going to speak first. I'm William Kraft. I'm a local poet, filmmaker, writer, computer geek in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, just to start with. But as Buddy Hanna said, for me, it all starts and ends with poetry. I'm first a poet, but one of the poets that I got inspiration from when I first started writing was Arthur Rimbaud. And the reason Arthur Rimbaud is important, especially for these young poets, is he stopped writing when he was 19. He wrote all of his, he's considered one of the greatest poets of all time, and he stopped writing when he was 19. And unlike the poets we have here tonight, his mother didn't really encourage him. So that's why it's so important for parents to encourage their children to write poetry and to express themselves in every possible way. Arthur Rimbaud, one of his most famous poems, it's actually called The Drunken Boat, and it's written in the form of a prayer. And I myself wrote a poem sort of as a homage to that. It's called Our Century, and I'll read a little bit of that here tonight before I hand it off to the next presenter, Jennifer Clark. Our Century. O great creator of life, give us a chance to believe, a reason to exist. We of the earth, we of reality's breed, want one more day of peace. We spend our lives running from death, trying to flee from something that has already found us, understanding. The pain that we feel is fleeting. Sympathy we feel is arrogance. Nothing is as fake as 20th century compassion. Hitler slaughtered 6 million Jews, Stalin 10 million Russians. Men of death we remember, men of peace we forget. Patton wrote thoughtful poetry, yet we remember his brutal violence, and we wonder why the world is evil. O great creator of life, grant me one last wish. Give humanity compassion and beauty. Let us forget this century. Let us be human. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
Initially, I wasn't going to read one of my poems, but Buddy, you inspired me. I was like, yes, I'm a poet. I need to read. I'm telling these folks, even after all these years, I still get nervous. So each time it's hard for me to do it, but I'm going to do it because we're asking you to do it, so it's only fair. So I'm going to read Exporting the Dead. And by the way, every year the corpses of hundreds of immigrants are flown from San Francisco to their home countries. Exporting the Dead. When an elephant dies, bones rest and relatives remember. Wrinkled trunks inhale the scent of skull, then silently caress ivory tusks. Massive feet rise and soft as a whisper stroke that which remains. When a human deemed illegal dies, the good death begins. It is in the business of international transfers that a life no longer is legitimized. Documents once withheld, made up for now, an offering of papers presented to the corpse, certified and sealed, pinned to that which remains. Like a note from a guilty parent, we withhold love no longer. It costs more to fly dead than alive, even though the dead don't ask for pillows. In the sport of exporting, we pretend they're alive. So when a human dies illegal, bones fly home or glide on the backs of waves to Mexico, Nicaragua, El Salvador for singing relatives to bury. A mother folds her arms and hugs herself. A sea of feet stand above blanketed bones and remember that their dead once lived. And I now have the pleasure of introducing three folks, and really there are three beautiful reasons why I got involved in this project. So we're proud of you, and that you have written what you have written, and that you're up here to share your voices. And each one of these folks really, there's courage. You're speaking about injustices, and yet there's this sense of hope that rises within your work each. So are we going to go in the order that you're standing? Does that sound good? And so, we'll do that. We'll stand up here too. And
good evening.
Company.
My name is Jonah Eisner, and I made this poem myself. And here I go. When I was younger, my mom beat me. She also messed up my brother's life. He's never going to live his own. He's never going to have his own home because a messed up woman thought that getting drunk and stoned was more important than having a son that can learn on his own. Why? Why do we get treated so badly? What do we do to deserve this? How? How do I use these experiences for the better? And that is a good question. I look at these experiences as a chance to do great and not to turn out like my mother, a disgrace. I remember that day when CPS came and picked us up at my grandma's house, not thinking about how that was our last goodbye. 2 weeks after CPS picked us up, our grandma died. Imagine being 8 years old, lost, confused, and not sure what the future could hold. When she died, my life shattered. I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. I tried so hard, but at the same time, I didn't think there was any reason to be living on this earth. Day to day, I thought I was a curse. One by one, home to home, city to city, that was my life. I will live with these experiences, these scars, for the rest of my life. They will not hold me back. Again, I look at these experiences as a chance to do great and not to turn out like my mother, a disgrace. I view these experiences as a chance to prove people wrong, although people who wrote me off, the ones who told my dads I wasn't worth it, the ones who said I will never grow, the ones who stooped to a great low and said that I will have no life at all. Look at me now.
I'm Tasha, and I wrote this poem 8th grade year. Revised it and reading it still. And it's called Transparent. Most days I am transparent, like a dog tied to a tree, confused, unsure, lonely, helpless, unwanted, unloved. And then again, I'm lost, forgotten, scared, insecure, misunderstood, cornered in the fence, keeping me in, wanting freedom. In other days, I'm neon pink, confident, respected, independent, powerful, proud, carefree, restless, goofy, and annoying. But today, I'm invisible. You can see me now because I'm letting you both see and hear me. You might look at me and see emotions on my face. Unhappy is what you see. Who can help? I'm dying, but inside I'm dying with pain. Who can help me? You may ask. Well, the answer is no one. Why? Good question. I don't know. But like my favorite song says, teenagers scared the living shit out of me. They can care less as long as someone will bleed. I'm screaming for help, but no one hears me, 'cause I'm invisible. Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Could you? No. What am I thinking? You can't hear me. This is my last prayer. Will someone please hear me? Thank you.
My name is Ashavion Gibbs. I'm from Phoenix. I lived a life in Chiapas, a life of struggle for basic needs, where the rich live long, great lives, and the poor die early and hungry. My family had dreams of a greater place, a land of dreams where the food wasn't scarce, a place with water so clean it mirrors my face. My father planned escape to the States because we knew the grass is greener on the other side of the gate. My people run towards freedom. We climb, crawl, swim during the dark midnight breeze. We reached Austin, Texas. My father cried and fell to his knees. Crying and screaming, we finally made it into the land of the free. No more poverty, hunger, or life of scavenging.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for the wonderful poems. And actually, it's interesting because we had a lot of, this category was really exciting because Tasha is extremely prolific. The judges loved all of your poems. And actually, I wanted to say, although you chose to read Transparent, which scored very high, Can't Bring Me Down, right, which was also composed by you, ranked number 3 overall. So I wanted to congratulate you. Now, a Disgrace tied for first place with Emma. So we wanted to, overall, in all categories. So we wanted to congratulate you. And My Life in Chiapas placed in the top 3 overall, and it was definitely a crowd favorite for all of our judges, so thank you. Thank you. Next, and actually now we're up for a real treat. Thank you. We have a member of the Kalamazoo Public Schools Board with us tonight to join us. One of the newer board members, Ms. Tiana Harrison, is here. She has volunteered. Yes, she's here. She's volunteered to do an inspired recitation for us on Ida B. Wells. Yes, on Ida B. Wells. So without further ado, Tiana, I just want to say I'm especially happy to see Tiana here tonight. Tiana actually has graduated in this space as part of Western's Humanities for Everybody program, so we're very proud of her for that as well. Join me in welcoming Tiana.
I am a little nervous, but I wrote down my notes from Mr. Hannah, so I am inspired to share my voice. It has been a long time since I have been in the public, but I'm comfortable because it's with children, it's with you guys, so I find my inspiration in you. I am reading from Ida B. Wells. I think that it is important to, with everything that is going on as we get ready to shift into a new season, I think that it's important that we understand some of the history of the previous season so that when we go into the new season, we go in with a different sense of what we are looking to accomplish. What I'm going to be reading is called This Awful Slaughter. It was a speech that Ida B. Wells Barnett delivered to the NAACP, their first annual conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Ida B. Wells predated Rosa Parks in being the mother of the civil rights movement because she refused to give up her seat on a train 70 years before Rosa Parks gave up her seat on a bus. She made a name for herself through her own one-woman journalistic crusade against lynching. The lynching record for a quarter of a century merits the thoughtful study of the American people. It presents three salient facts. First, lynching is a color line murder. Second, crimes against women is the excuse, not the cause. Third, it is a national crime and requires a national remedy. Proof that lynching follows the color line is to be found in the statistics which have been kept for the past 25 years. During the few years preceding this period, and while frontier laws existed, the execution showed a majority of white victims. Later, however, as laws, courts, and authorized judiciary extended into the far west, lynch law rapidly abated, and its white victims became few and far between. Just as the lynch law regime came to a close in the West, a new mob movement started in the South. This was wholly political. Its purpose began to suppress the colored vote by intimidation and murder. Thousands of assassins banded together under the name of Ku Klux Klan, Midnight Raiders, Knights of the Golden Circle, etc., spread a reign of terror by beating, shooting, and killing colored people by the thousands. In a few years, the purpose was accomplished and the black vote was suppressed. But mob murder continued. From 1882, in which year 52 were lynched, down to the present, lynching has been along the color line. Mob murder increased yearly until in 1892, more than 2,000 victims were lynched. And now statistics show that 3,284 men, women, and children have been put to death in this quarter of a century. During the last 10 years, from 1899 to 1908, inclusive, the number were lynched was 959. Of this number, 102 were white, while the colored victims numbered 857. No other nation, civilized or savage, burns its criminals. Only under the stars and stripes is the human Holocaust possible. 28 human beings burned at the stake, one of them a woman, and two of them children. Is the awful indictment against American civilization the gruesome tribute to which the nation pays to the color line? There is a remedy, or will the nation confess that it cannot protect its protectors at home as well as abroad? Various remedies have been suggested to abolish the lynching infamy, but year after year, the butchery of men, women, and children continues in spite of plea and protest. Education is suggested as preventative, but it is a grave crime to murder an ignorant man as it is a scholar. True, few educated men have been lynched, but the hue and cry stops at no bounds, as clearly shown by the lynchings in Atlanta and in Springfield, Illinois. Federal protection of American citizenship is the remedy for lynching. Foreigners are rarely lynched in America. If, by mistake, one is lynched, the national government quickly pays the damages. The recent agitation in California against Japanese compelled this nation to recognize that federal power must yet assert itself to protect the nation from the treason of sovereign states. Thousands of American citizens have been put to death, and no president has raised his hand in effective protest, but a simple insult to a native of Japan was quite sufficient to stir the government at Washington to prevent the threat of wrong. If the government has the power to protect a foreigner from insult, certainly it has the power to save a citizen's life. As a final word, it would be a beginning in the right direction of this, if this conference can see its way clear to establish a bureau for the investigation and publication of details of every lynching, so that the public can know that an influential body of citizens has made it its duty to give the widest publicity to the facts in each case, that it will make an effort to secure expressions of opinions all over the country against lynchings for the sake of the country's fair name, and lastly, but by no means least, to try to influence the daily papers of the country to refuse to become an accessory to mobs either before or after the fact. In multitude, there is counsel is wisdom. Upon the grave question presented by the slaughter of innocent men, women, and children, there should be an honest, courageous conference of patriotic, law-abiding citizens anxious to punish every crime promptly, impartially, and by due process of law to make life, liberty, and property secure against mob rule.
Thank you. One of the reasons why we wanted to include an inspired recitation tonight is because interestingly this year, all of our entries were in the open free verse category. There was another category called inspired recitation, and the goal of that category is to reconnect writers with history, right? To kind of share pieces and insights from the past to help inform the present. So thank you, Tiana, for that. Okay, our final category in open free verse, grades 11 through 12, will judges Denise Miller. Denise Miller is a co-founder of FIRE, Historical and Cultural Collective in Kalamazoo. She's also a professor at Kalamazoo Valley Community College. And Doris Ravodas, who's a professor at Western, as well as a local poet. Will the semifinalists for this category, Destine Price, are you here? Destin. Okay, thank you, Destin Price. And Martell Gardner, yes? Please come up.
It's great to meet you both. First, I want to say thank you to Kathy and also to Tony for making this all possible. And thank you also to the judges that are on the team with me. It's wonderful to work with some amazing poets. I want you to be at the microphone. Oh, you want me to speak? Okay. I'm all nervous. Yeah, so Buddy was talking to me tonight because I'm super nervous as always. I was writing a grant earlier, and I was supposed to be writing the grant and ended up writing a poem instead. Yeah. And I was going to read that poem, but then I realized as I was sitting here, one, the poem wasn't so great, and two, the thing that gives me the courage to create is my own story. And so I'm going to do a poem that is kind of my signature, and it grounds me when I'm nervous. So it's called Speak Easy. And I'm going to be so weird to be behind the mic on this. But Elizabeth said, so here we go. I come from a long line of speak easy women with veins full of dandelion wine and Jesus. In her 20s, my great-grandmother got on her knees to clean white women's kitchens. She climbed ladders to vinegar shine their windows with the daily paper. At 50, my great-aunt folded chicken into cornmeal and fried, and they all piled crispy wings and thighs neatly onto paper plates to serve for $5 to feed their children and their children's children. And I come from a long line of life ain't easy women. My great-aunt, until she was struck almost speechless by stroke, filled pots as tall as 3-year-old children with dandelions to make wine, and I would watch her lose herself in the music her hands made for hours. Scraping yellow petals from green stalks to soak in sugar till the sweet came out seemed to soothe her. Now, she was not a moonshine woman, nor did she stomp on grapes from sunup to sundown or pluck purple fruit from vineyards. No, see, her backyard was rock-heavy and full of weeds with soil so memory-laden that it was soaked with her dreams because she was a speak-easy woman who made her living. She was bartender and cook and music of the juke joint her husband's mother started before she was born, while her husband paraded girls pushed into womanhood by their father's hands just outside her view. And I come from a long line of deep-breathing women who measure sadness by the length of arm they can put between dirt and starched white sheets hung high on roped clothesline. See, they were all hardly loved by men that etched their brown skins with hands that held their cry suspended in moonlight. And I come from a long line of deep-breathing women who, as black girls, fought to find their reflection in the slip between the spit shine of society's funhouse mirrors and the shimmer of grown men's grins in the shadowed outlines of their bedroom doorways. You see, I am speak easy women who speak when it's not always easy women who word small brown girls into grown black sisters and aunts and mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers who learn to love themselves. These women who learn to love themselves hard. Thank you.
I'm happy to share this stage with Denise and this young talent here. I'm going to read a poem that I made that's a found poem. A found poem is a poem that you make from other people's phrases. It's kind of a way of honoring another writer. And so this is from one of my favorite books. I also should say that I changed the dialect in this poem because of who I am and my trouble with dialects, so it is adjusted in that way. Zora's Woman, a found poem from Their Eyes Were Watching God. She had starched and ironed her face, forming it into just what people wanted to see. Then she looked down on him and felt a self-crushing love. It was the meanest moment of eternity. No hour is ever eternity, but it has its right to weep. There are years that ask and years that answer. She seemed to be staring at the dark, but her eyes were watching God.
She didn't read books, so she didn't know that she was the world, and the heavens boiled down to a drop. She stood there until something fell off the shelf inside her, and her soul crawled out from its hiding place. She had an inside and an outside now, and suddenly she knew how not to mix them. She had found a jewel inside herself, and she wanted to gleam it around. She pulled in her horizon like a great fishnet and called on her soul to come and see. Now I wanted to introduce Martell Gardner, who is going to read The Connection.
Most fathers, they don't get showed appreciation because most of them probably dead or incarcerated or never came around. For some reason, he couldn't make it. Mom feeling guilty like it's her fault while the house is breaking. But that's not my father. I'm blessed, and yes, I'm proud to say it. Now I feel I got the room's attention. Hear my situation. Started as a seed in the basement. Everything was vacant till I seen a light and a doctor. I had finally wakened. Mom said I cried in her arms. Thankful that I made it. In my dad's arms where I was placed, and bet that felt amazing. God's gifted him a second son. Our blood circulated. I just met my father. New Horizon, I was born and raised in. Kids played on the pavement. Remember, dad was working late, his family waiting. He brought home the bacon. All my life was taught from wrong and right. Highly educated, told my dad I want to be a rapper. He seen dedication. Started misbehaving, altercations, man, I used to hate it. Dad had only wanted conversation words to help me make it. Stubborn as I would dodge it when I should embraced it. All a part of becoming a man, my dad was very patient. Knew his son was going through some phases. That was thanks to Satan. Don't let his persuasion cause your life to go through drastic changes. I upset my father, but never will I disobey. My father working every day to make sure food on every plate. Early morning text, son, I love you, what he'd always say. These memories that cannot go away, I'm thinking day to day. Most fathers leave, so their kids in the street. My father cared enough to be there, so that can't happen to me. And anytime I did dirt, he was there to wipe it clean. Said ain't nothing on the east but funerals and smoking weed. Hood rats, drama queens, snake friends, crack fiends. Why try to live that lifestyle if it wasn't meant for me? Now I see. I'm just like my father. And Dad, I can't thank you enough. Hard times, it got rough. You would always pick me up. Told me never ever quit and get that head up out your blood. I'm on a road to success. My dad told me buckle up. I'll never trade any of our memories. Car rides frequently, talking about the industry. I know I don't hoop, but I did it so you notice me. I want to have talks about sports like Ty and Lee. I felt left out because I ain't know about the things y'all talked about. It felt like I was just around. But Dad said it's okay, and I'm just glad I know now that I ain't got to be my brother, and that's why I'm here now. I respect my father. And if it ever was a time where I couldn't be alive, I know my dad would take his life so I can go and live mine. God knew what he was doing when he put you in my life. I'm just sorry for the stress I put on you and all the lies. I never seen my dad cry, and I wouldn't be surprised if a tear dropped out his eyes because they falling out of minds. Apologize for every time I came in the house high, tried to lie, but you see through my disguise every time. Street lights came on, I would try to prolong, be cool, still standing outside. Friends ain't friends, I can see it takes time on the corner late night, I should have left around 9. All my friends' dad's gone. I got a dad at home, and he the house backbone, keeping everything strong. As a man, you protect. Loyalty, respect, all comes with your job. As a father, come correct. If this here was a test, my pops couldn't get an F because he been working since a youngin' and his life was a mess. To my very last breath, when I'm walking up the steps, all your love put into me, no regrets I accept. Nickel saved, penny spent on bed so we can rest. Your blood flows through my flesh. It'll pump until we're done. But for now, I just thank you for the man that I become.
Beautiful. So now I want to introduce Destiny Price, and you're going to read Untitled. Okay.
Wow, that was great. Okay. Challenging a just society by fighting injustice and valuing diversity defines social justice. Equated with the notion of equality or equal opportunity in society, what is social justice? The fair and proper administration of laws conforming to the natural law that all persons, irrespective of ethnic origin, Gender, possessions, race, and religion are to be treated equally and without prejudice. So join me into the depths of my sight and witness infringement, tearing the ground from beneath us, while we stand in place and grant the world the right to mold us into feeble-minded beings that are cast with confined sight. As we sit and allow chaos to ignite, we let it rule our minds, leaving its evilness roaming until it finds something to light up and destroy. Why do we allow these things to take form and set as a decoy? Ruining our everlasting fate, why do we allow injustice to slip through its forbidden gates? How? How do we take a child and tell him or her how successful they will become based on their finances and zip code? Why is it that a person with a lighter skin pigment receives more privilege than one with a darker one? Homelessness has dropped by 11%, but has the unprecedented amount of families on the brink of homelessness been named? What have we done about the veterans who were once impenetrable but are now abandoned and fragile? Make known the reason why the ones who have sworn to protect us have deprived us of existence, highlighting the persistent systematic inequalities of our world. Become aware of the death of a 3-year-old who was hung upside down, whipped, and beaten to death by his very own parents. Why do we not conform to justice? Why must our eyes look upon this madness? Why must our hearts be filled with such sadness as we rely on our eyes to catch sight of devastation, cruelty, and pure evilness? As citizens, we have a long path to journey. We have a number of wounds to patch. No one person holds the key to healing the wounds, fixing the system, and fulfilling the dream. But it is time we all accept the responsibility to listen and act as a nation when even one person says, "I can't breathe."
Judging both from our judges' reaction and audience reaction, both of these poems were amazing, and they were clearly the top two, separated by like not even a point, not a point, I mean like a tenth of a point from one another. So both of you clearly have tied for first place in this category. So we thank you. Okay, so our evening is rapidly coming to a close, and so we would like to invite Ms. Yolanda Lavender up to the podium for closing remarks. Is she here?
Oh my goodness. What? Okay, so let's just give another round of applause for everybody that's been behind this podium this evening. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to even be here in great company. I think about Buddy Hannah and Denise Miller, who are like heroes to me. And then to be able to see all these young people who have found the courage to be able to create is amazing, because I'm very passionate about youth being able to have those opportunities to do that. So that's awesome. And I'm the executive director of the Black Arts and Cultural Center, so a shameless plug that any of you who are looking for opportunities to continue to share and create, please come and talk to me after this so that we can definitely make that happen in other ways for you. And don't stop here, like just keep going and doing it and doing it and doing it. So I'm also an artist. I'm a singer and a songwriter, and so much of my writing comes out through song. And so what I wanted to do, in addition to encouraging you all to just continue, like I'm just so inspired by everybody, and also the parents and guardians who are encouraging your youth to continue to create. Please keep doing that, because that matters too. Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I appreciate so much about art, and so that's poetry and visual and music and dance and all of that, is that like you can just use that to express whatever is happening for you. And so I think about these artists who were, coming up during the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power movement, who used their art to express what was happening during that time. I was just reading a quote by Nina Simone a few days ago, and she was saying that it's the artist's responsibility to reflect what's happening, at the time that they are coming up. And so I feel really strongly about that as well, and I can see that, you all do too. And so I just want to share this song by Billie Holiday, because I also feel that ownership of what you do. And so, being able to get up here and recite the things that you wrote, like that's yours, those are your words, and knowing that you own that is very important too. And I just want to say that this song, one of the reasons why I chose it is because it was one of the first songs that I, performed in front of people outside of church, which is where I started singing. And I was able to do that at Fire, which is a place that I just, can never say anything but great stuff about Fire, because it was like this for me. It gave me the opportunity to be able to have the courage to create when a lot of other places, that opportunity just was not available to me. So thank you, Denise, for that opportunity. So I hope that these words from Billie Holiday resonate with you all. Them that God shall get, them that's not shall lose. So the Bible says, and it still is news. Your mama may have, and papa may have, but God bless the child who's got her own. She's got her own. The strong get more, while the weak ones fade. Empty pockets don't ever make the grade, because your mama may have and papa may have, but God bless the child who's got his own. He's got his own. Oh, money, you've got lots of friends. They're crowded all around your door. But when they're gone and the spending ends, they won't come no more. Rich relations give crust of bread and such. You can help yourself, but don't take too much, because your mama may have and papa may have, but God bless the child who's got their own. You've got your own. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. That brings us, the evening just went by so quickly. I just wanted to congratulate, and please join me in congratulating all of our amazing semifinalists in the Courage to Create competition. We also wanted to take the time to extend a special thanks to our community leaders who came out to share their wisdom and insights and voices with us, Mr. Buddy Hanna and Ms. Yolanda Lavender. Thank you. And last but not least, kind of our partners in crime, our community-based judges who were amazing at every stage of this process, read every poem, scored them, and participated in many different community events to help inspire youth to write, starting from our workshops in January during the MLK visitation at Western to special events at Art Hop. I mean, I wanted to give a special thanks to Elizabeth Kurlikowski, to Michael Evans, to Jennifer Clark, William Kraft, Denise Miller, and Dory Ravodas. Please join me. Thank you. And sort of partners in crime at KPS, the teachers, as well as the principals who helped get the word out about the competition, to Mr. Johnny Edwards, also with KPS, who collaborated with us. But especially I want to thank the teachers, because many of your teachers actually nominated these students and encouraged them to submit. So please give them a round of applause.
I just want to say, I'm excited, number one. But number two, just give us a chance to recruit you to Western, please. I'm sorry, I'm putting a plug. I can't help it. I just had to put that out there. Just give us a chance, please, because you're gonna go places. Wow, that's powerful. But the one thing we talked about, and I think Buddy talked about, getting your message to the public. What does that really mean? But you can engage yourself in some digital publishing. And I'm sure that there's people in the community can tell you how to go about doing that. Librarians, take advantage of that. Get your poetry out to the public. We talk about that with our graduate students here. What good is research if you take it and sit it on the shelf? Can't help anybody. Can't change anything. But I'm sure that something you said tonight inspired someone, it helped change your life, it helped motivate someone, uplift them, and take them to a place where they had not been before. And that's what it's supposed to do. So with that, Kathy, you had anything else? No. Again, yes.
Absolutely. I need to do a plug, since I have poets here. Absolutely. I'm the president of Friends of Poetry here in Kalamazoo, and we have a big contest for kids K through 12. She's a previous winner, she. The deadline is coming up April 1st. If you go to Facebook and Friends of Poetry on Facebook, you will find us. The rules are there. Enter. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. April 1st.
And just one more thing, the gifts that you have, I think, what is it? Kindle Fire?
It's a Kindle Fire.
A Kindle Fire. Kathy helped raise the funds for that.
Thank you for reminding me. And actually, thank you for reminding me about that, because the literature on the table in the corner are from our sponsors. So I wanted to also extend a special thanks. The sponsors donated a Kindle, so one of your Kindle, for this competition, but they are the Lee Honors College at Western Michigan University. There's actually information about an event that's being done jointly with the Black Arts Cultural Center in Kalamazoo. So perhaps Ms. Lavender can tell you more about that, but we have those flyers there. Another co-sponsor was the Center for the Humanities, where we are tonight, as well as the Office of the Vice President for Research. So please feel free to help yourself to literature there, as well as the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They each donated the Kindles that you've received this evening. So thank you. Okay. So please help yourself to more food. Please network. You know, our judges are probably going to be here for a while. And I'm pretty sure there are other plugs, like Fire, I'm sure has events and are willing to talk to you about publishing opportunities. But thank you for coming out tonight.
Don't want to be afraid, hard not to hesitate, but we can't wait to be